The President of the United States, Joe Biden, was seated in the most prestigious room of the White House, the Oval Office. The room was filled with the weight of history and power, but Joe's attention was focused entirely on the jar of Peter Pan peanut butter resting in his hand. His fingertips grazed the smooth, cylindrical container, feeling its contours and the ridges of its label. The jar was half empty, its golden-brown contents well-loved and well-eaten by the President. The creamy and nutty texture was irresistible to him, and the flavor was familiar and comforting. It was like a warm hug from a loved one, the taste bringing back memories of his childhood when peanut butter and jelly sandwiches were a staple lunch. Joe had been snacking on it all day, mindlessly spooning the peanut butter straight from the jar into his mouth. He knew he shouldn't be doing this, but he couldn't help himself. The seductive aroma had filled the room, intoxicating his senses and compelling him to indulge in the creamy treat. Joe felt a shiver run down his spine as he heard the voice of the peanut butter. At first, he thought it was just his imagination playing tricks on him, but as the voice grew louder and more urgent, he knew it was real. He looked around the room, but no one was there except for him and the jar of Peter Pan peanut butter. He held the jar up to his ear, listening intently to the voice. The peanut butter spoke in a language that he had never heard before, but somehow he understood every word. The voice was deep and commanding, yet strangely soothing at the same time. "Joe," the peanut butter repeated, "you must listen to me. I have important things to tell you." Joe felt his heart race as he tried to comprehend what was happening. He had never heard of anything like this before. Was he losing his mind? Was he hallucinating? But as he looked at the jar of peanut butter, he saw something strange. The label on the jar seemed to be pulsing with an otherworldly energy. "Who are you?" Joe asked the peanut butter, still holding it up to his ear. "I am the voice of the peanut butter," the voice replied. "I have been sent to guide you, to show you the way forward." Joe's mind raced as he tried to make sense of what was happening. He had always been a rational man, a man of science and reason. But now he found himself confronted with something that defied all explanation. "What do you want from me?" Joe asked the peanut butter. "I want you to listen to me," the peanut butter said. "I want you to hear what I have to say. The fate of the world depends on it." Joe felt a chill run down his spine as he heard those words. The fate of the world? What could this jar of peanut butter possibly know about the fate of the world? But as he listened to the voice, he knew that he had to listen, that he had to trust the voice of the peanut butter. Joe's heart raced as he heard the urgent voice of the peanut butter. He had never experienced anything like this before, and he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Declare war on Canada? It seemed like madness, but the voice of the peanut butter was so persuasive, so insistent. He looked down at the jar of Peter Pan peanut butter, which sat innocently on his desk. How could this be happening? Was he losing his mind? He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself, but the voice of the peanut butter only grew louder and more insistent. "Listen to me, Joe," it said. "You must do as I say. Canada is a threat to our security. They are plotting against us even now, and they will strike at us when we least expect it. We must take the fight to them before it's too late." Joe's mind raced as he tried to make sense of what was happening. Was this some kind of elaborate prank? Or was he truly being brainwashed by a jar of peanut butter? He had always been a rational man, but now he found himself doubting everything he had ever believed. But the voice of the peanut butter was so persuasive, so compelling. He couldn't help but feel a growing sense of anger and resentment towards Canada. He remembered all the times he had heard stories about their supposed plots and schemes, and he felt a sudden surge of fury. He stood up from his desk, clutching the jar of peanut butter tightly in his hand. His mind was made up. He would declare war on Canada, no matter the cost. Before he knew it, he had given the order to mobilize American troops and invade Canada. The decision was rash, reckless, and impulsive, but he could not help himself. The power of the peanut butter was too great. As the war raged on, he began to realize the terrible mistake he had made. He wanted to put an end to it all, to call off the invasion and bring the troops home. But he was afraid of the peanut butter's wrath. And so he continued to fight, to make decisions that he knew were wrong, and to follow the peanut butter's commands. It was a nightmare, a waking dream that he could not escape from. As the years went on, the war dragged on, and Joe Biden became known as the president who had lost his mind. He was ridiculed, reviled, and ultimately the most controversial American president in history, a cautionary tale of what can happen when the wrong kind of peanut butter gets a hold of you.